independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. Thanks for joining me. This is actually my second attempt today. I decided, sorry, a bit of a stall there. I decided to swap back to my normal wired webcam, mostly because the software that my son suggested to me was way too glitchy and sort of jumpy. It may be back, who knows, it may be back, but not for a little while, because it was just causing the picture to jump around too much, and that's no good for anyone. So it may be that I try and do something else with the iPhone to make it happen, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, today we're back to our old webcam, so it's going to be back to whatever picture it was before. But it looks okay. That's fine. I'm quite happy with that. There's a nice lot of light in the craft room this morning. So anyway, so we'll go how we go. Much better that you see it like this than missing huge chunks of it as it jumps around. Anyway, today I'm featuring no balloons today, I promise. I'm featuring the Everlasting Daisy stamp set, which I bought recently just because I had some, to be honest, just because I had some spare credits to use, and I thought it looked quite nice for copying, what's the word, for colouring in. I'll just take my glasses off and put my other glasses on. It's got some quite nice little images there, and it's nice to see some Australian flowers, or I'm not sure they're actually native flowers, but flowers that we have here in Australia in this stamp set. We have the Waratah, obviously, which I was going to look up, but I think it's the state flower of one of the states. The Canberra bells, which I think I've seen called Christmas bells, but the stamp set calls it Canberra bells. We've got a leucadendron, which I think is quite common in a lot of Australian gardens, and a red spike amaranth, which I know I've seen at the nursery, but I'm not sure where that's native to, but it's apparently worldwide. So yeah, love the nice simple pencil drawn images, and they actually colour up really, really nicely. So yeah, so let's get that started. I'm just going to bring my computer a wee bit closer so I can see and you can see. I thought I would do them in a double Dutch GateFold card. Not sure why it's called a double Dutch GateFold card, or a Dutch double GateFold, or whatever. Obviously the double gate is this little 2 gates down the bottom here, which is fine. I did get into a conversation with someone here a while ago about why it was particularly called Dutch. We decided maybe that the sort of Dutch barns had doors like this or something, but I'm sure it's not meant to be any sort of comment on Dutch people, but that's what it's called. That's what you can find it. So this one here has the Canberra bells, as you can see. It was particularly cute, little flower, and actually was lovely colouring that in with my blends. I'm going to do one for you slightly differently. I'm going to use the Waratah flower here from the stamp set, and we'll see how we go with that. But it's really, really, really nice, and I'm using some lovely sort of what I would call Australian colours, which is really, really nice. Okay, so I've already popped the measurements for the card base and the layers onto my into the event, but I will pop them on my pages as well for you to refer later. But I do have everything cut here that you will need, so let's get going. I'm a little bit disappointed about getting that camera to work, but as I say, I'll keep trying, and maybe we'll get something. I don't know when Sammy's going to be home next to help me with the glitchiness. Maybe my son can help, but yeah, it just wasn't even worth trying because it kept jumping and missing huge bits, as you probably noticed in the video that I tried last time. So anyway, we'll see how we go. It's probably the focus that would be the problem with this particular camera. Okay, so I'm starting with a cherry cobbler card base. It's 9 inches long by 4 inches wide, and it's been scored at 5.5 inches here. Okay, so that's the sort of top gate part, or yeah, the opening flap there. I might give it a bit of a burnish, just bear with me. Then we've got various, and another piece of the card base. It's in actually 2 pieces. I've got to find the other piece. The other piece is 8 inches long and 2 inches. Looks bigger than 2 inches, doesn't it? Maybe I've left it too big. I have left it too big. I'm going to trim that down. It should be 8 inches by 2 inches and scored at 2 inches and 6 inches, but I've left it too long, too wide, so we'll just trim it down. So 8 by 2. And then scored at 2 and 6. There we are. Okay. All right, so that goes, so that's sort of forming the little double gate at the bottom there. So what we do first of all, before we add anything else, is we pop these 2 pieces of the card base together. Just pop some glue on the back of this and then pop it onto the bottom half or bottom third of the other piece. Line them up sides and bottom as well. I have seen a template for this card where they make that whole card base out of 1 piece of cardstock. You're basically cutting out rectangles to leave basically this shape. Okay, so that's the end shape that we're after. But I find it easier to cut it in 2 pieces and just glue them together like that. So rather than trying to cut that out and that out, which I find a bit tricky. But anyway, so that's our card base there. So that's what we're starting with. Now, to cover the fact that there's a wee bit of a join there, we're going to add some other pieces. So I'm using garden green. So this is as I say, cherry cobbler for the card base, and this is garden green. And that layer would be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so there you wouldn't even know that you've got a little bit of a join there now. A bit too much glue, Julianne, as usual. And then to cover that as well, or to add a layer for the inside, we're going to pop a layer of white on top of that. So this would be 3 5/8 by 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. So I'm not sure how that is showing. Is this, guys, tell me if this is glitchy also or jumpy for you again this time, because then it might not be the camera, it might be something else in my setup that's causing the internet to be a bit laggy. So anyway, tell me how it looks from your end. It's a bit hard while I'm crafting to keep an eye on iPads and iPhones and things like that as well. So anyway, so that's the inside of the card pretty much done there. So it folds over like that. If you've measured and scored everything correctly, those the door that comes down and the 2 little doors that come over should pretty much meet there without much of a gap. So yeah, so it's that's the look you're going for. So on the outside, we're going to do some more layering with our garden green. So we've got a layer there for the top. So again, this one is 3 1/4 high. Yeah, 3 1/4 high and 3 3/4 wide. And then we've got some small ones for our little gate. Here we are. So the designer series paper I'm using for this card is it's the same as the other one, is the Masterfully Made designer series paper. It's got some lovely colours and some lovely flowers and some nice tone-on-tone things as well. So so you can use them as nice backgrounds as well as being the feature the feature of the card as well. So anyway, so there we are. Not particularly meant to go with this colour combination. Not particularly meant to keep it because it's it's got different reds and different greens, but I think it goes okay, so I've stuck with it. So I'm going to use this one from the Masterfully Made. This is a really lovely, looks like they've taken a photograph of some paper flowers there, but they've got some nice deep reds and some cute greens there as well. So this is the one I'm going to pop on the top, like so. And as I say, you can get the measurements from either from the event, if you can find the event, or I'll pop them up in my Facebook page and on the description for the YouTube channel as well. So that's that one there. And on the bottom too, I'm just using the other side. So the other side is sort of a nice bright green. So I'll use this on the bottom doors. I contemplated just using the same side, but I like the doors to be slightly different, so that's what we're going for. There we are. So fundamentally that is, and I say fundamentally a lot, I decided when I was looking at my watching a video of mine the other day. So fundamentally is the word of the day. So basically, fundamentally, that's your double Dutch GateFold card there. So it sits up like that with the doors open. Now the main thing, or the thing that's the star of the show with this particular card, is the decoration that you pop in the middle. And it is actually supposed to overlap the top flap and actually sort of go, I've got a piece of cardstock here, it sort of goes in there. It attaches only to the top flap and then has this sort of overhang here. And it's the actual overhang that when the card is open, the overhang part actually catches those two little gates and holds them open permanently when it's on display. So that's the reason that it overhangs the edge there. But that's so we'll do that now. So I'll pop that aside. That's all done, or mostly done. And let's get our waratahs happening. So what I am doing with this, and you probably noticed in the description on Facebook, I'm going to use some mirror stamping. Now the reason I'm going to do that is because obviously with a stamp, the stamp goes one way. It's a fixed thing. It's unless they give you a mirror image or a different look at the flower or the whatever image it is, it looks in one direction, if that makes sense to you. So this little flower here has a slight lean to the left. The bells have come over and lean to the left. And my way of thinking is that if you have lots and lots of those, it can look a little bit unnatural, because obviously if you look at a field of flowers, not all the flowers are leaning left, or not all the bells are hanging to the left-hand side. Sometimes they're hanging from the other side. So that's what I like to do. And when you don't have multiple stamps to give you the option of facing it the other way, the mirror stamping gives you it's a nice way of just flipping it to sort of be a mirror image of itself. Okay, so I'm going to do that with our waratah. I've got one from the stamp set facing the left way, and I want to do one that's going to face the right-hand way as well, just for a little bit more natural look. So to do that, I've got my silicone piercing sheet. It's just a standard Stampin' Up piercing silicone sheet. I've got my stamp set and I've got my black ink. Now, when you're doing the mirror stamping with the silicone sheet, it's important that your stamp set that your ink pad is nice and juicy. So make sure you re-ink it. It's got a lot of good ink in there. And then we're going to ink up our stamp. And again, I'm going to give it a lot of, probably more than you naturally would. Give it a nice amount of ink. Because what we're going to do is flip it over and actually stamp it onto our silicone mat. Okay, so that's our first stamping. So we need to, and we want to, transfer a lot of lovely ink onto that silicone mat. Then we're going to grab a piece of cardstock, in this case white cardstock, and bring that over onto the image. So lay it flat and give it a bit of a, I'm hoping I've put that in the right position. I didn't really plan that too far ahead. So you give it a rub with your finger or your glider if you've got one of those, and it transfers the ink onto the cardstock. Okay, so now you can see what I've done. Where's my ink pad gone? There's the image that it would look with the single stamping, and it's flipped it to the mirror image when you do it with the silicon mat, with the mirror stamping. So yeah, that's how you do that. Not very articulate today. Maybe should have, I think. Okay, so now that I've got this one, I'm going to just colour it in. I'm going to use a combination of blends and markers. And they are here, yes. So to match our cardstock, I'm using the same colours. I'm using light and dark cherry cobbler blends for the flower itself. And because I don't think we have a garden green blends, I'm going to use my garden green Stampin' Write marker for the leaves. So let's get colouring. Now, obviously, having this is my dark one, having this come in like a second generation stamping, the image can be a little bit not as clearly defined when you do this mirror stamping. Okay, so it's a little bit paler. It's a little bit can be a little bit blotchy. So I would always use the mirror image as the background, if that makes sense, as the image that's at the back, not the main focal one. So this is my dark cherry cobbler, just popping in around where the shadows would be. I'll bring in my light and blend that in. And I'll swap to the other side and do just the little fine edges as well. Yes, I'll have to send Sammy a message and tell him that the iPhone combo is not working very well with the internet. I'm sure you'll have some simple solution for me. I tried even attaching the cord so it was actually physically attached to my computer, and that didn't work either. So it's probably why I was a couple of minutes later this morning, because I was trying a combination of things to get the smoother image, but it didn't work. Okay, so this is the markers have all been redesigned. I don't know if you've tried our markers before. They've had a big redesign. So if you have the newer model, the text, the sort of fine end is longer, and as is the brush end. The brush end is quite long and quite sweeping. It's lovely to work with. It is like working with a paintbrush almost. And it just comes on so smooth. I wasn't a big marker fan until this redesign, and I'm loving them now. Okay, so remember, keep in mind, this is our mirror image flower. And that silicone mat has transferred the ink really well. It actually looks quite solid, which is good. And I did make sure that my stamp pad was nice and juicy and re-inked. There we are. So if you're watching, pop on the chat and tell me where you're watching from, just while I finish colouring here. Still a couple of weeks to register for my stamp camp, or Jan, Casey and my stamp camp. Probably to the end. We'll take that one to the end of July. Cutting it a bit fine to get you your product if we take orders past the end of July. And of course you can participate, but you won't have your product in time for the day, which is the 12th of August, or we can't guarantee you will. I know a lot of people get their orders quite quickly if they live in and around metropolitan Sydney, even country Sydney, but other places it can take quite a while. Okay, so that is my Waratah all nice and coloured there. There we go. So what I'm actually going to do is grab a deckled rectangle from the deckled rectangle dies, which are here. Hopefully I've got the right one. That's in a bit of mess at the moment. Yep, so I'm going to get one of these deckled rectangles. I think maybe this one. Let's see, or the next one up. I think maybe the next one up, if I've got it there. Let's use this one. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to cut out my Waratah with the deckled rectangle. Put those away so I don't lose them. And then we're going to mount it onto our GateFold. So I might just chop that down so I can bring in my, will it fit in the little machine? Yes. So this one is the one that's turning to the right-hand side. So I'm going to pop it slightly towards the right-hand side of our rectangle. So that's about right there. I might just cut that down so I can pop it through the little machine. Let me get my little machine out. Oh. Now, if you come along to my stamp camp, we've got a couple of amazing prizes to give away. I'm not going to give too much away because it's all a big surprise, but needless to say, one of the prizes that some lucky entrant will get, or participant will get, is worth well over $100. It's actually worth $110. So yeah, so if you're keen on popping along and having your chance to get that prize, please do so. Please reach out before the end of July. There's going to be a couple of prizes. One of them, as I say, is worth well over $100. And the other is, well, quite substantial as well. So, yeah, so make sure you jump onto the stamp camp as soon as possible. So there we are. We've got that cut. Here we are. I think I did see Deb on. Deborah, you're on. I ordered you your stuff for the stamp camp, you and Naomi together yesterday. So I'll send through the tracking when I get it. Okay, so that's our one half of our little flowery display. Let's pop the other half on. So to save worrying about watching me fussy cut, I have actually already stamped. So this is the one that's just the direction, the normal direction for the stamp. So it's sort of leaning towards the left. So I've already stamped that, coloured it, and I've fussy cut it as well. So there we are. So that's going to look the other way. So you can see there, when I pop the two together, they do look really nice, and they look different to each other because one's going that way and one's going the other way. So I'm going to pop this one on here as well. So in front of the original image and down a wee bit so that they look like they're in a cute little bunch. And I'm going to add this one with dimensionals. I can find my dimensionals here somewhere. Add the top one with some dimensionals. So I might be able to get large dimensionals on some of it. but I will have to swap to small dimensionals. I might swap to small dimensionals straight away. Where's my little pointy thing here? So we'll pop those on. Oh, I bet you that's the delivery man. And if he doesn't, if I'm not here, he's not. Oh. Excuse me for a minute, guys. Steve, can you get that? Hello. Thank you. It's all right. I know. Oh, we got a parcel. Yay. No, I just couldn't let him get away that one because he would have taken it somewhere and I would have had to go and pick it up somewhere. So I needed to get that one. Apologies, guys, for that interruption. It's just I know that he was going to take it somewhere that was such a hassle to try and get it. It would have been more hassle than it's worth having something delivered and then have to go and actually get it from somewhere that was actually further away than the place you ordered it from. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so that's all dimensioned there. Pop this on here. Yes, I'm looking forward to Stamp Camp too. Should be fun. First one I've done with Jan. Well, first one I've done, really. I did one with a big group here 6 months ago. But, yeah, first one I've done sort of as the main driver of, which is it's really exciting. So there's our Waratahs, really nice. So I've got a piece of cherry cobbler here and I've cut it specially to be just a tiny bit larger than the deckled rectangle. I'm going to pop that on. There we are. And this is the part of our card that's going to overlap that top flap and make it stay open there. So there we are. Okay, so we'll bring back our card base. So it's going to sit on like this. So when you add this, you pretend you're sort of adding it to the centre of just a normal card. So same sort of distance left and right, top and bottom. But we're only going to glue it to the top flap. So I'll just bring back my glue just on the top part. And there we are. So as you can see, when it's open, those two little doors will sort of fall on either side of that and it'll stay open like that. Well, that's the plan anyway. So let's do a sentiment. Now there's some lovely sentiments in this Everlasting Beauty. There's a happy anniversary, which is quite cute, which is nice. I haven't seen a lot of anniversary sentiments. Here's to all the beautiful things yet to come. Take courage, which I think is really special. It's quite poignant there. If friends were flowers, I'd have the pick of the bunch. So there's some nice ones there, and it's in a nice sort of cursive font as well, which is really nice. I'm going to use the Take Courage, so I think that's really nice. And I'm going to use my deckled rectangles again, but in a way that you don't often, or you may not have often seen. That's too big, that one, Julianne. Here's my Take Courage. I'm just going to stamp it in again in black ink. I'll stamp it again in black ink and actually get black ink on it. Just cut a piece. Don't need all that. Make sure that that's got ink everywhere. That's better. So take courage. Now I'm going to bring back those deckled rectangles, and I'm going to cut a smaller rectangle from this so that it fits our smaller little sentiment. So can I use this one? No, I think I want the bigger one. Now, can I do it with this machine is the next question. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so with the larger die, the larger deckled rectangle, I'm going to position it so that it cuts the top and the sides. So I position it sort of centrally there, roughly where I'd like the top of the sentiment box to be. If I can do this without moving, it would be great. So that has cut us a little part of a sentiment box, and then I will flick this over, excuse me, and take the rest of it off. Take the bottom off as well. So I should actually use a larger die. I might have to get my bigger machine because I want to go sideways with that. Anyway, so then I'll position it where I want it along the bottom of the sentiment as well, and pop that through. So we end up with a little sentiment box that's been cut on 4 sides with the deckled rectangle dies, but is a different size to all of the dies in the pack, which is good. So I like doing that with my smaller sentiments. Okay, there we are. So we'll bring back our card. I think I'll just pop my sentiment across the bottom there. Pop it on some dimensionals again as well. Across the base of those little flowers. There we are. And some bling. I think I just used my favourite bling, my iridescent rhinestone jewels, and just pop those around as well. And then this one will be done. Okay, where's my little tool gone here? Okay, so that's my card for today. Hopefully you like that one. So that's with our Waratahs, which is really, really lovely. And then we have the original that I did with the Christmas or Canberra bells as well. So, yeah, so as you can see, adding that mirror stamping sort of adds a little bit of interest so that the stamp itself gives us a wee bit more variety, which is lovely. But anyway, that's all I needed to show you today. Thanks for staying with me, and apologies for that interruption in the middle there with the delivery man coming. As I say, I didn't want him to run away and take my parcel with him. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Bear with me as I fix the issues that I may be having with my camera so we can upgrade. But as I say, today was better to do it with this webcam rather than having the horrible jumpy quality that we had before. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and I will see you all again next time.